Hello, everybody. So stoked to have you here. My name is Brigham Black. I'm a success story coach, and we've got my good buddy, Daniel Mower, here as well. We're going to be talking about frictionless mentorship. Now, one of the things
Absolutely.
we are so stoked about is having great mentors. We're going to have a great opportunity to talk today. And I'm going to try this little thing. I've never done this before, but while we're live, check this out. Here's my intro. Boom. Okay, cool. Now we're in it. We're in it. Levelin Up podcast, frictionless mentorship with Daniel Mower and myself, Brigham Blackham. Oh, Dan, let's start off here today. I want to hear a little bit of your experience with mentors and how taking the friction out of your mentorship has been able to help you really increase your opportunities, further your business, and help you in all the different aspects of your life.
So honestly, mentorship is probably the key factor in boosting anyone's business to the next level. I mean, it's everything. So I got started. My very first mentor was in real estate investing. And when I very first talked to him, I was transparent about everything that was going on in my life. And that kind of opened the door to our relationship building, because then he was able to direct me in a way that made sense, and he wasn't giving me advice that didn't make sense for what I was doing. So the more you're transparent with a mentor, the further you're going to go, because then they really know how to mentor you in furthering your business or whatever goals that you may have. But it starts with being open. You got to be transparent with them.
Okay, so one of the reasons why I chose frictionless mentorship, because I think this is key, is a few months ago, I had the opportunity to mentor my daughter in making a pinewood derby car, and she chose a pencil, right? And one of the things that you do with pinewood derbies is you need to make sure that these wheels are as frictionless as possible. You put graphite on them. We even took these nails, we took them out and we sanded them like crazy, polished them up. And it just reminded me of if we want to stay on the track, we don't want to go off the rails. We need to make sure that we have the right people with the right information, right? Those mentors that have been there, they've done that. Maybe they've done the Pinewood Derby before, right?
Yep.
But they help you stay on the track. If you didn't have some of those little things that help you stay on that track, sometimes you'll see kids have their guide totally jump off and get derailed. Now in business, if you are saying, hey, how do I be a frictionless mentor and how do I create no friction for my mentor? Here's the main definition we're talking about so we can keep this conversation going. When your mentor tells you to do something, you just do it instead of saying, man, I wonder if we could do it in another way. My friend Greg Kimball, who first shared this little concept with me, he's like, well, if you want modified results, you modify the actions. And it was like, oh, I don't want modified results. I actually want the real results. It was like, then do the hard thing. You make the choice and you do it. And I think that's something that's been true in my life. Dan, how has that showed up in your life as you've taken the action to say, you know what? I'm not just going to do what the mentor says, but I'm going to do it exactly the way they say it.
Oh, I mean, I am like probably every person that's ever started out with a mentor. You're like, oh, I know better. Like, even though I've asked for their time, I've asked for their knowledge, you still think, oh, I know better. And you're like, well, I could do it this way, and I think I could get it better. And it always backfires every single time.
Every time.
But the moment you realize, you know what, I can be humble here and actually tell myself I don't know everything. I mean, that's the whole reason you have a mentor. You don't know anything or everything about a particular subject. Mm-hmm. And the moment you just realize I can be humble on this and decide I'm just going to do exactly what they say, dude, your business or whatever goals you have, you're just going to go right through and skyrocket to it.
I know you said your first experience with a mentor that was really positive was in the real estate investing space. Yep. You did wholesaling. So tell us the 30-second version of how you came into that and then how you divested your company.
Yeah. So again, I met my mentor actually on a church mission, and we've just stayed really good friends ever since then. And I just saw the amount of success that he was having in his particular niche, and so I was very transparent with him. I just got laid off work. I had a kid on the way, and I was dead broke. And I told him this is what I wanted to do. I've always wanted to go into real estate. And so I asked him like, "Hey, will you mentor me? Like these are my goals. These are what I want to hit. You've already hit those. Will you do that with me?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'll tell you your first steps, and then it's up to me to do those steps." Because everyone and their dog wants to do something, but very little people actually take the actions to do it. And so he wasn't going to take the investment on me unless he knew I was actually going to do something. So he told me my first steps, and I went out and did it. And man, I think in my first 3 months, I quadrupled my yearly income, just from listening to what he was doing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's the power of having someone that's been there, they've done that, they're a practitioner
Yeah.
rather than just someone that thinks they know because they went to the library and they read a book or they've gone
Yeah.
through a class. You're like, hey, I went to this seminar for a whole week. I know this stuff. You're like, oh, if you knew it, you'd do it. So you
Yeah.
don't, but if you've done it,
My
yeah, go ahead.
my current mentor tells me this all the time. He tells me, he's like, we all have a nose 2 inches away from our mouths, but we still need someone to tell us we have bad breath. And that's exactly what a mentor is there for. He's there to tell us what obstacles we're going to come in, where we're going bad, and get us right on the back on the track, just like you were talking about.
That's so funny. I just remember my friend Woody Woodward. He's a great mentor of mine too. He shared this example about Febreze, the creation of Febreze. Like they've done all this science to make sure that it eliminates odors, but the people that were the most needing that, they didn't realize they were nose blind to how stinky they were. The reassociation they created was, oh, breathe easy, because it's almost like a little gift at the end of, or a little present at the end of cleaning.
Yeah.
That was the thing that turned their business into high gear. So you think about this, if you have a great mentor, one idea can absolutely change your business when implemented the way that it was intended. However, those ideas, if we give a good idea and it is not implemented the exact way that it was intended, you get modified results. Modified action
Yeah.
creates modified results. And if you're creating frictionless mentorship, when they say to do something, just do it. Just do it,
Just
and
do
do it,
it.
and do it, and do it, and do it until the job gets done. If I can quote, what's his name? Arthur, forgot his last name, but that's the quote. Just do it and do it and
Yeah.
do it
I
until the
mean,
job gets done.
they're taking years of experience off of the table once you just decide I'm going to listen to exactly what they're going to say. And it's not, I think a lot of people get stuck on they feel like, oh, if I have a mentor and he's telling me something to do, it's almost me asking permission for something they're giving, and it's not that way. It is 100% you're getting perspective on what they've done, and
Mm.
then it's your decision to either follow through on that or not. But it's not permission. I think so many people get stuck on that. You're not asking permission from a mentor to do something. You're just simply getting their perspective, and hopefully you decide to go through with the perspective they're giving, because it's going to save you years off the table of
Right.
bad experiences that they've had.
And you think about being willing to actually listen with the intent to apply.
Yeah.
That's taking the friction. That's like putting the graphite on the wheels so they spin.
Yep.
It allows you to turn decades of experience into days when you implement it like that. And it's one of the only shortcuts that I know.
Yeah.
You do the sacrifice the way that they say, and that sacrifice, as you have made it consistently the way that they say, you start to avoid some of those pitfalls. So I know you used to be in real estate for a long time. What
Yeah.
got you out of real estate into what you're currently doing as a business owner?
So I my goals changed.
Yeah.
I wanted different things in my life, that not necessarily the mentor I had in real estate didn't have, but it just wasn't in the direction that I wanted to go. And so I actually found another really good friend of mine who was living the type of life that I wanted, or had the type of goals that I wanted. And so I just decided to make the pivot and change directions and move in that way.
Yeah, and then you successfully divested that company. Just give us like ballpark. How did that go?
So I talked with a lot of different people about how I could potentially sell off that company, and just move into a different direction. And so it just came down to networking with people. Again, finding another mentor, if you will. Uh, all success comes through other people,
Mhm.
um, and their knowledge base and their willingness to help you, which any successful person that I know has always been willing to help a person who's willing to act.
I think that's the key. They're not just willing to listen, they're listening with the intention of taking action.
Yeah.
I have a good friend, Steve J. Larson, is just he has this quote that makes me laugh. But he says, if education was all you needed, all librarians would drive Lamborghinis.
Oh yeah.
Think about if
I
you have a
love that.
mentor that has something that is absolutely going to change your life, the best way that you can honor them is to listen and to take action.
Absolutely.
They just want you to be better, to do better, to have the skills necessary to make them look good because you actually listened.
Yep.
That
And
was
honestly, like a
huge.
huge part of their joy and purpose comes from seeing you succeed.
Mhm.
I mean, and anyone that's ever came to me and asked for help or support, like I just take joy in honestly watching them succeed in whatever they're trying to do. Um, I mean, that's what it's all about, giving back.
Giving back. And once you've done this for a little while, it's not just, hey, what can I do to take care of myself?
Yeah.
It's how can I take care of other people? How can I help them
Yep.
get to that next level, break through those glass ceilings? Maybe you've done it for years and there are things that you know that you can leave behind. And then there's also things that, you know what, if you're a great mentor, most likely you also have a mentor. That's
Yeah.
something that I've learned from my good friend Greg Kimball. He is a product of the product. He pays high dollar for amazing mentors, and then he consistently does what they say.
Yep.
So a couple weeks ago, we were in Salt Lake City at the Money Is Mastermind because
Nice.
his mentor, who he paid a great amount of money to, his name is Dan Fleischman, absolutely phenomenal entrepreneur, angel investor, like the youngest guy to bring a company public. I think he was 23. He's a
Wow.
really cool mentor for my mentor. He's like, hey, just show up in Salt Lake. I'll be there eventually. And he's like, what? Just drop everything, just go. I was like, yeah, just go. So we went there. And Dan wasn't able to come for like 3 or 4 days. So he's like, what do I do? He's like, just enjoy. But opportunities come when you're in the right place and you have that
Yep.
proximity to power. And he had multiple opportunities. We even got to sit down at dinner with him one on one. I guess it was not technical. It was just me, him, and his business partner. So 4 people.
Yep.
And I heard him talk to Mr. Wonderful on the phone as well. You're like, oh my gosh, that's the type of people that you want to be around. Those that are movers and shakers. They're making
Oh,
a difference
absolutely.
in business. And sometimes the mentorship element isn't teaching. There's a huge difference between
Yeah.
teaching as far as like, here's what you need to know, the instructions,
Yep.
and here is an example to follow. I think a mentor
Yeah.
is really an example. If I had to differentiate, that's probably the main difference. Here's what I did. If you want similar results, here's a path you could take
Yep.
rather than here's what hypothetically you could do if you were a business owner. Like you go to any business college, you talk to any professor
Absolutely.
that's
Any
never
business
run a
college, you'll get
business.
that.
You just
Yeah.
don't listen to those guys.
Yeah.
So Dan, tell me this: when you have listened to your mentor, how has it kind of greased the wheels or take that graphite and made the wheels just spin in your business?
So I'll give the example of my real estate business that I ran. My mentor gave me some advice on how to scale my business, that I would have never even thought of. Um, and when as soon as I applied that first step, it was terrifying beyond measure because it was a huge financial liability if things went wrong.
Yeah.
But knowing he's already done those things, he's taken those steps. He was able to walk me through the whole process, and we onboarded our first lead manager, and then we onboarded our cold callers, and just got the wheels churning. And then we went from doing just a couple of deals a month to doing close to 3 to 4 deals a month.
Nice.
Like, and I mean, that's scaling. And they were able to take the reins on those, and they were an amazing team. Um, and I've been able to apply that to almost every business that I've ran successfully, was because of that one tip that he gave me.
Okay, now I feel like I need to know what the tip is, even though I'm not currently a wholesaler. I bet there's some people in this audience who are like, what did he do to like literally double his business?
So the key is having a savings. That was huge for me. I would have never guessed that. Like, oh, I should have 6 months of funds in place for when things hit the fan, which things do. But as soon as you have those funds in place, you can carry on, because you always know you're going to have I guess, like that backbone into it, and that safe deposit, and help you scale. So I mean, it doesn't seem like a huge tip, but for me that was massive, because I was terrified to start hiring on people, because I'm like, well, what if something goes wrong? What if a deal goes south, and then I'm paying out money, and then I have to pay my employees. And he's like, well, if you have like this safe, 6 month savings for your business, like, who cares? Like, you're covered, like, you're ready to go, and you just keep going. And then he put together some training modules for me, to help onboarding and stuff like that. So
Nice.
yeah, it was phenomenal.
So what I'm hearing is systems.
Systems.
That's literally like having a system for
Systems,
onboarding, so important. And then making sure you have a cushion. I talk with Eric Counts. He's one of my very favorite people as far as a credit expert. He talks about the reason that people don't get hurt when they fall is because they have a cushion, right? If you have a parachute, it cushions your fall, your descent. If you don't have a cushion, falling out from an airplane, there's a splat sound, I think is what happens, right?
Yep.
You're gone. You won't remember it though, so that's probably fine. But you definitely need to make sure that you have a cushion. And I think that's what the savings idea is, whether that's on a line of credit, on a home equity line of credit, it's savings that's like actual cash, however it is you do that. But that gives you peace of mind, and it lets you act with intentionality. So that's a great, thanks for mentoring me on it. I think that's a great insight. Fantastic.
It just takes all the pressure off of your shoulders when you know, like, I can make mistakes and I'll still be fine.
Yeah, make some mistakes, and you actually go after those mistakes, right? It's okay to make those mistakes, because your family's not going to not be able to eat next month because you didn't do it. Yeah, I think that's awesome. Now, when you're talking about creating friction for a mentor, let's talk about going there, because I know I've done that before.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, right? Especially early on. And I'm just curious, what is the most friction you've ever created for a mentor? Let's hear a story.
I think I do this to my current one all the time. Asking the same question 100 times and not applying what they said.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Oh, doesn't that get annoying? You're like, well, are you going to actually do something with it?
Yeah.
Sometimes before I'll give advice to people, I'll say, what have you done with what I told you last time?
Yeah.
And if they're like, well, nothing, I was like, well, then just do what I told you last time. Done.
Yeah.
Right? You're like, you want more advice? So I have a friend named George Bryant. He's been on my podcast a handful of times. I love this guy. He talked about how sometimes as entrepreneurs, we look for a shiny hammer. We're like, man, this is going to solve my problems because I want to put that nail into the board. But then we see another shiny hammer. And instead of using the hammer we just got, we were equipped with it. We're like, well, I want that hammer instead. It looks nicer. So you set this hammer down, you go get another hammer. And then right as you're about to hit that nail, you're like, oh, there's another hammer.
Yeah.
Hit that hammer. And you go and you pick up that hammer. And eventually you look at your toolbox and like, well, I got 8 hammers here and I still haven't put that board with the nail in it yet. There's a massive difference if you are saying, will this work? Well, do you do the work?
Yeah.
If you identify the work and you do the work, right? Your mentor says, hey, let's track your calories and let's have you exercise every day. If you don't do that, it's as good as him not having told you.
Yep. What's the point?
What's the point, right? So if you're able to boil down like probably the most impactful thing that your mentor has helped you as far as being able to break through glass ceilings, what is something that they've done? I mean, it could be a small thing, but helped you get unstuck. What was one of those pieces of advice you've gotten?
Personal growth.
Mhm.
A lot of business, believe it or not, is a mental game.
Oh yeah.
I'd say only 20% of any business is really like the knowledge of how to do that business, and the rest of it, like it's your ceiling is your personal growth and mental stability. Um,
That's
and
wisdom,
so
guys. Did you catch that? That was wisdom. So good. Because you never really surpass your level of personal development. You
yeah,
may for a moment, but it will always come back to where you are because you have
yep,
to be before you can do and you have to do before you have.
yep.
So any further thoughts on that? Sorry, I cut you off. I was
I was gonna go on and say, are you reading a book?
yeah.
Because books are huge. Yeah, well,
Mhm.
and applying what's in those books, just like a mentor. Books are really just a mentor in words, in
Yep.
word form. You're gaining all this knowledge, and it's applicable to whatever it is you're doing. Um, are you reading books? I'm always reading a
So
book.
true. And one of the things that I want to point out here, because I learned it as a missionary, I think is was really drained into my head, or not drained, would I put that? It drilled into my head, right? Just all these metaphors, is you need to liken the scriptures or you need to liken the principles to whatever it is that you're doing.
Yep.
The difference between having a story that's instructive and having a story that will transform your life is seeing yourself in that story and saying, well, this is what happened to my friend Nephi. How could that apply to me? As soon
Yeah.
as you ask those questions, like, well, what other situations are similar to that in my life? Is there other ways that I can make this connection? What results did he get by actually doing what he was told and following,
Yeah.
even though it was hard? Those commands absolutely shifted his mindset. So for
Yep.
me, if you think about likening those stories, there's a way that people will sometimes share in like podcasts or in books and movies an experience that's instructive for one person. And that context, it's very clear. But what if you could take that context, slightly change it, and have it apply to you? That's
Yeah.
learning through transference. That's how books can
Yeah.
actually help you. They don't have to say, well, in your situation, it's a little different, but this is what I would do. They'll say, here's a way that this helped this guy. You can look at the context of that and like, how can I
Yeah.
apply that to me? So
Yeah. And the excuse of I don't like to read, or I don't know how to read, like there's audio.
oh
I
my
mean,
goodness, yeah.
I one of my mentors mentor, who's like a billionaire, I swear. He's super wealthy. He didn't know how to read, really. Like obviously he could read, but it wasn't fast and he hated doing it. So his wife read to him because
Wow.
she believed in the dream that he had. And like I thought that was absolutely amazing. And now look at them, like you would look at them, you're just like, man, they're the coolest couple in the world. Um, and it's reading books.
Reading books. And you think about what you're ingesting, not just
Yeah.
what you're listening to, not just what you're seeing, but the way that you're processing that information and then using it. The reason why I speak Mandarin and Spanish is not because I listened to it only or I read it. I did something with that knowledge. And you speak Spanish, is that right?
Not really.
Well, we're gonna have to work on that. Just kidding. No, you're good. You're good. But anytime that you have a new thing that you want to learn, there are people that have been there and done that almost
Yep.
across the board.
everywhere. Yeah.
So instead of thinking, how do I do this? Just rearrange it slightly and say, who has already done it?
Who do I know?
Who do I know? Who do I know that has done this before? Or who do I know that knows somebody that has done it before?
Yep.
Eventually you'll find somebody. And if you don't know them, you go and start creating some intentional networking to say, you know what, I want to meet Russell Brunson. He's on my top 100 list.
Yeah.
That's my top 10 list of people I want on my podcast. I was like, I'm going to figure out a way to connect with him because I really like his content. He's a stud. I'm going to figure out how he's going to be on my podcast, and I'm going to help him out too. So you put it out into the space and you figure it out.
The worst thing someone can say to you is no.
Right.
What's wrong with that?
Right. It's already a no, right?
Yeah.
He's not on my podcast right now. So what's the worst that can happen? Nothing. Literally nothing bad will happen. So
just ask.
Just ask. Man, I just had a guy named David Meltzer on last Thursday who is a stud when it comes to business. He was this guy that his sports agency that represents all these different athletes across the world. That's the sports agency that was the inspiration for the Jerry Maguire movie, right? Show me the money. You know that guy. That's the one, right?
Yeah.
You completely no. But you think about it. Anytime that you associate intentionally with people that make you a little uncomfortable because they have a higher skill set or a much clearer mindset or a deeper vision that goes extremely far. That's why you have mentors. Mentors help you see around corners because they're already there. And just because they're farther down the path than you doesn't mean they're better than you. It means they know the way. That's it. They say, hey, watch out for this and that little obstacle. Oh, you're definitely going to want to wear shoes because there's some red ants, and they'll help you along the way.
They'll help you. Yeah.
But if you don't listen to them, you might as well not have even talked to them.
Yep.
Yeah.
You got to apply it.
That's huge. Now, let's go here. I know you've got some good stories. You've probably mentored a handful of people in your life, right? As a business owner, whether it's an official like business coach or not, but how have you been able to be a mentor, give a hand up to other people and give back?
I honestly have been super grateful and super blessed. In a lot of my most influential mentors have been mentors that I've been friends with them or I've met them through other friends, and have been willing to give of their time without charging me. So they've just been those type of people to just, I'm gonna help them, and so I've always also felt like I've just been given so much, I need to give back too, and so really, and I've told this to so many people, very few people ever take me up on it, and that's fine. If someone wants help in something that I know, I am more than happy to help out.
Love it.
And I think most people are that way too.
I think a lot of mentors are, if you'll actually do what they say.
Yeah.
When you create friction for your mentor, they're done.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. As soon as you don't do what they say, it's really hard to want to continue to pour into you. Right. It's kind of like you have a cup and they have this cup that's full, and as they're pouring into you, you're like, no, don't give me any more. I don't want to do it. No, I'm good. I'll just keep my little vial. Just don't do that.
Yeah.
Anytime you're willing to say, oh, thank you, fill my cup up. Oh man, I've got a little more than I need. I'm going to pour this into the next person's cup. That type of overflowing blessing and that abundance mindset, that's one of the keys to being a great mentor. Now, I don't presume to be the very best mentor, but I have had amazing mentors, and I love to take what they've given me and figure out how I can give back to more people.
Yep.
And I've been mentored by every missionary that I've ever been around, right? In my language, I've been able to be mentored by other teachers, by other business professionals. Every time I'm on a phone call with someone, like my kids even mentor me at times, right? They mentor me on how to be a good parent. And there's an expression in Chinese, 三人行必有我师焉. If you're walking and you've got someone on your right and on your left, they can become your teacher or your mentor. Yeah. And a teacher for a day is like a father for a lifetime. because they fathered an idea. They fathered a way that you can think different. Both of those are Confucian sayings, but it really comes down to, are you willing to give back? Because if as soon as someone gives you something great, you're like, I'm not going to share this. This is too good. I'm not going to share it. That's a very constrictive way. There's no reason why you can't have amazing knowledge and share it as well. I call this the special K, right? Special K. Have you ever heard that? You ever had that cereal? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Special K. Oh, yeah. K is for knowledge, right? You have specialized knowledge. And when you have specialized knowledge and you share it, you can articulate that knowledge even more clearly. You can mentor someone a little bit better because you actually voiced it. But if you didn't voice it, you keep it to yourself, that specialized knowledge can only be applied where you push it. So thank you, Daniel, for sharing a little bit of your insights on how to create a frictionless mentorship situation. And before we sign off, tell us a little bit more about where people can find you online, how we can continue to connect with you. And I'll do the same. You go first.
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram or Facebook. My handles are I'm Mower Power.
Mower Power. Yes.
Mower Power. And then I'm best with texting. So I can give my number. It's 801-232-3822. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me is just shoot me a text.
Cool. Well, thanks so much, Dan. And who is it that you serve? I can't remember the best way to have people say, oh, that's me. I'm that person. Who is it that you serve? I know you serve me because you're like an awesome guy. I buy products from you for my short-term rentals, but who's like your ideal niche person?
So I'm really working with a lot of Airbnbs. So if anyone has Airbnbs that are looking for some supplies, hit me up. Happy to help.
Yep, that's where I get my cleaning supplies from Dan too. So he's awesome. So there's a plug for him. Go check out his stuff. It's awesome. And for me, guys, if you want more awesome content, more value, continuing to connect with amazing people, join me every Thursday. I'm on Levelin Up, on the Levelin Up podcast. And man, Dan, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Pour it into the audience. So much value.
Pleasure to do it, man.
You're a stud. I appreciate you. Thanks for all you do, my friend.
Thanks for having me on here.
Absolutely. You God bless. I'm going to hit this little thing to do the bookend show note thing. You ready? Here we go. And sweet. That was cool.
That's awesome.
All right. Thanks, guys. God bless.
Thanks, man.